Everybody here know everything there is to know about security tokens and regulation and implementation and operations and everything? If you do not, I highly recommend you tune in to Security Token Academy. I hear the host is very charming. Okay. Nice to see you guys. All right, today we're talking with Henry about Fincross. So, Henry, thank you for joining us. It's great to meet you. Of course, we've met prior, but it's great to meet you sort of in front of an audience. Fincross is a company that people here may have been hearing about lately. We have a very niche-focused community where a company like yours in London focused on security tokens and tokenization of funds actually might be heard of in Los Angeles. But for many people who haven't heard, can you tell us a little bit, like, what is Fincross specifically and why does it exist?
Sure. So Fincross International is a regulated investment bank focused on digital assets. And specifically with regards to security tokens, we believe that the security token market is going to completely dwarf the size of the cryptocurrency market. So for any entity that is looking to kind of structure investment products, like an investment bank that's looking to be a bit progressive into digital technologies and digital ways of trading, that's really what's obviously stemmed the creation of this company. And we're at this very crucial stage right now of just launching the company this month. So hence why we've come into LA for this event.
So why Digital Securities? Why are you a company that's focused specifically on this ephemeral and strange world?
Well, like I said, we think the potential of this market is huge, and the market's really started in this explorative stage. We're figuring out what are security tokens, who's going to buy them, how are we going to trade them, is it going to ever be a liquid market or not? So I think everybody here has to be kind of patient for this market to evolve. But once it is going to catch on, it's going to grow quickly. And of course, that's what we got attracted to.
So you don't just do digital securities. You have a specific focus, or you have one of your foci is particular, which is funds. It's not your only thing that you're doing, but what is it about funds that's interesting?
So, we are interested in all kinds of products, investment products. As an investment bank, we're here to structure new products, but also to distribute our own ones, and as well as reputable products from third parties. With regards to investment funds specifically, why is that exciting for us is because, and there are examples in this room of people that have already done this, of tokenizing funds. Mm-hmm. And that's going to, I believe, going to be more popular in the future. And like I said, these are progressive groups that are looking at different ways to fundraise, or in some cases to exit from an existing investment portfolio that they have. The liquidity is what's going to really kind of justify the value to that idea, in my opinion. But if things are done right over the course of 2019, the build out of infrastructure, better clarity on regulation, more regulated and sophisticated groups coming to market to really bring quality products and distribute them on an international scale, that's really what's going to help the market catch on. And tokenized investment funds so far have actually been examples of the first security tokens actually to be created and to gather interest from investors. Right,
some of those people, several I've seen in this very room. Welcome to you all. So, okay, so where are you located? And that's more than just a tell me about yourself question. There might be more to it than that. Tell us about where you're located and why.
Yeah, our management team is spread across the States, London and Dubai at the moment. But we are registered and regulated in Mauritius. Mm-hmm. Mauritius has been paving the way in creating regulatory frameworks for the digital asset industry and the use of DLT with regards to financial service activities. In 2017.
So you mentioned that you just said DLT. For people who might not be following, what are you referring to, DLT?
DLT being distributed ledger technology. And of course, this is the technology that's got us all excited and is making all of these things possible.
Right. So, okay, so you're in Mauritius, you're in the U.S. Is there a reason why you've decided that the U.S. is the place where you're going to have a lot of your personnel?
Yeah, I think, traveling the world at the moment for Fincross and engaging with different groups, whether they be institutional investors, corporations, or family offices and individual clients, all of these groups have different views on the security token market, on cryptocurrencies. But what we're feeling is outside of the US is that everybody's looking at the US for what's going to happen next. And I think once the US starts adopting things, it will drive more growth from overseas markets. I think, a lot of the early stage growth in the security token market specifically will actually come from pockets like Southeast Asia, where regulation is a little bit more lax, let's say, compared to more mature markets like the States. So for us to kind of position ourselves here, we see that as a strategic decision for the company, but also one where we want to be on the front end of understanding exactly what's happening here in the States with regards to the securities laws that are now, again, getting a little bit clearer as to what's happening for security tokens in this market.
Right. So now let's get into, we have people here that do all kinds of things within the security token environment. You've got the issuers, you've got investors, you've got people who do all the guts and the pipes of every part of the process. You're an investment bank. So what does an investment bank do in this process? How does it work? When do you get involved? When don't you get involved? What do you do that brings value to whom?
Sure. So, I mean, for us, when we look at what an investment bank is in a traditional world, it's a very services-orientated company. But, that's kind of really the value of the company is delivered by the people within that organization. In our case, we're trying to develop a next-generation investment bank. And next-generation, why? Because we're actually developing our own fintech to actually start digitizing a lot of the processes which otherwise manually done by humans in traditional investment banks. So, and again, obviously, when you're involved in something like digital assets, we think it's an absolute necessity for an organization such as ourselves to be really relying on proprietary technology. So with regards to actually, structuring, launching, and distributing security tokens in our case, this is an activity that we are very, very hungry to be doing from this year moving forwards. We want to really be able to provide an end-to-end solution in doing that activity. We might, of course, rely on certain specialized partners along the way on the technical side, but at the same time, we are also developing our own technologies and protocols to actually deliver and run security tokens in a compliant way.
So, but as an investment bank, what are the things that if I'm your ideal client, how do I choose you over somebody else to get this all going? Like, what do you do that makes me love you?
Basically, that we will take it. The pitch from our side would be is that we would help take care of the whole process from start to end. Yeah. And the end to us is actually delivering a handover to a security token exchange, so that token can actually be launched and then listed on an exchange for secondary market trading. And that's kind of where our kind of position in this will come to an end. So we're focused on that kind of that pre-issuance and issuance stage of the cycle, and then the post-issuance for secondary market trading we will hand over.
So what about for funds? How are funds different from just, say, a company that wants to issue, or there's an owner of an asset that wants to issue? What's the difference?
Well, when you're investing in a fund, obviously you've got diversification into an investment portfolio. So kind of, in my opinion, it's a more convenient way of investing into a diversified portfolio as opposed to managing your own portfolio of security tokens. At this early stage of the market, that's attractive because it kind of makes the whole process more convenient to you. But I think, one of the things that we find interesting at the moment, over the course of the last 6 months, we've been identifying groups that have mandates to buy security tokens. Or at least towards the end of last year, the groups that were really saying, we want to participate and we're looking for security tokens. And The trend of what we've found is that two kind of client segments have emerged. You've got on one side you have institutional investors that are looking for more complex products, new investment products that they can't buy and access through traditional markets. And then on the other side, we've identified family offices and ultra-high net worth individuals that have a completely opposite kind of investment thesis and view on the potential of this market. And that is an objective to be able to trade asset for asset, as opposed to, with fairly vanilla security tokens. So being able to trade a real estate token directly with a precious metals backed token, let's say, without touching cash. And so they say, look, we're in the game of wealth preservation. We want to reduce our exposure to cash. We're concerned about the medium to long-term value of the US dollar. We want to, hedge ourselves against recessions in different parts of the world that could be emerging. And so we see the security token market as being this platform to be able to, like I said, trade asset for asset. And the fund managers, on the other hand, are looking to make, good returns and are looking for more exotic products.
Okay, that to me is super interesting. So you're saying, well, first of all, I'll just pile on in your benefit. You guys are out there actually sourcing investors that already have an appetite to be in sort of security tokens writ large. But then what you just said is totally fascinating, that there are people that are actually already strategizing a way to go straight asset for asset with. Is it that they don't want to go into the currency, or is it that what's the?
They don't want to be dependent on cash, right? So
right. Okay.
I think this is a fairly kind of long-term view, medium to long-term view of what, how they want to position themselves, and like I said, think about wealth preservation. Some of these individuals and groups are in the fortunate position of having a lot of capital, and if the markets start struggling around the world, they don't want to have to rely on cash as much as they do today. So cash is king today, but maybe this is their point: is they want to have access to a market where cash doesn't always have to be king.
Another example of people thinking of things that I had not thought about, and that's probably why they are family offices and I am just family. Okay, so do we think that foresees a time when we have these pairings where it'll be, I don't know, oil coin to real estate coin, and I just swap that way in some kind of an exchange?
I mean, look, I certainly think there's the potential for it. It raises the topic of kind of the tax and the reporting and the auditing issues that will come up.
Yeah.
So this will be a slow evolution, in my opinion, but I think we will get there, yeah.
Amazing. So a little more on the appetite of the investors that you are sourcing, meeting, having relationships with. And I think as an investment bank, that is something that's a little different from a lot of the sort of facilitators that we talk to. So for those, you call it a vanilla asset, I think you said, these sort of like, it's commercial real estate token.
Yeah.
Are there sort of more, maybe I'd call it aggressive thinkers in terms of security tokens where they've thought of different use cases that are fairly visionary, that aren't vanilla, that are maybe, I don't know, what would a more interesting flavor be? Mint chocolate chip?
So the way we look at it is that, programmable securities, digital securities, security tokens, whatever we want to call them, present this opportunity for you to actually code unique elements and variants into the underlying token itself. So that's what makes this so exciting, actually, because now we're not kind of just restricted to creating this uniform kind of investment product. We can actually make it extremely variable. So an example of, let's say, maybe a more complex token could be a token which has an underlying security, whether it's a hard asset or a soft asset element to it, and then maybe even combine certain utility aspects and benefits to the token as well. There are investors out there that don't like the idea of that. They just want to have the straight-up security, and they just want to buy that. But then you have got other groups that are now saying, again, being a little bit more progressive in the way they look at these investment products and saying, actually, yeah, to have a security and a utility benefit or several utility benefits could be attractive. And these could come in the forms of discounts, of memberships, of access to certain things. The opportunities are basically infinite when it comes to these utility benefits I'm referring to.
Yeah, there's been a lot of clarity is a strong word, but there's been a little bit of clarity around that kind of dual-use token finally now.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. There's a lot of fear around, don't cross the streams and you're safe. But I think inevitably that's going to be one of the major use cases. But on that, what do you think are the verticals that are the most ripe for tokenization, or maybe vertical is necessarily the right word, but where do you see the best use cases, the most logical first ones and then best ones? They might not be the same.
Well, as I was kind of alluding to before, we're really looking for investors for tokens, because if no one's going to buy these things, then we've not even got a market on our hands, right? So our conversations are really ongoing all the time, and the number of groups that we're identifying that want to enter this space. And it's worth mentioning that the vast majority of these groups I'm referring to have not actually bought a single security token to date, because they've said the quality's not been good enough for what for what they're looking for. It's a little bit, I'm a bit uncomfortable with it, or I haven't really figured it out yet, or what's the investment upside? Some of the investment upside potential of these tokens is too little to really attract me and to justify the headache of learning how these new assets work, and dealing with compliance things like custody, and being comfortable that custody is being done in a proper way. So there's so many questions that investors have today. So the way we're approaching it is saying, let's ask the investors what kind of tokens they want to buy. What are the verticals, to your point, of that they're interested in? And the 4 or 5 that we've identified as being the reoccurring verticals are tokenizing soft assets, so specifically brands. There are several companies out there that have these super valuable brands within their company, but they're not monetizing them in a way that they could through tokenization. Distressed assets, tokenizing those and creating potentially utility benefits within those tokens to actually help the distressed nature of that asset kind of reverse. So basically using security tokens as a way to turn around the distressed nature of an asset. Thirdly, real estate and non-transferable Reits, especially here in the States, which are very difficult to trade at the moment. That's a huge use case, and we've got foreign investors that are really, really eager and excited to invest into U.S. real estate. And then finally, assets on reserve. So these could be, being able to buy in bulk at a discount potentially some assets that are just sitting in a warehouse or underground and yet to be mined. So examples could be, gold mines or data centers, you name it. And if anybody that's kind of storing an asset for a hedging purpose or for kind of a long-term stockpiling purpose, these are assets that can be tokenized. Value can be extracted from them through tokenization, and there are markets, there are investors for these opportunities.
Amazing. What do you think are the key friction points with people? So you have a very unique view on sort of the investor landscape in vis-a-vis security tokens. What's the profile of we'll call it an investor or a company that actually says, yeah, I'm interested in security tokens? And then on the other hand, what are the things that keep a similar company from even wanting anything to do with it? Does anything have to do with age? Is it experience? Is it technical understanding? Is it all of those or none of those?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies are still, even if they've heard about security tokens, that's a good start, right? So, but when we sit down with some CFOs, whether it's for a listed company or medium-sized enterprise, and we start explaining that there is an opportunity here to start monetizing assets for them in ways that they've not kind of thought about before, and maybe the barriers to entry in terms of cost and time are not, putting them off. They're kind of getting interested, and certainly touching their interest in kind of listening to us and explaining, hearing directly from us the kind of ideas that we have in terms of tokenizing assets that they own. Some groups obviously looking to fundraise. So for STO, that is a good mechanism, I think, to do fundraising, especially in real estate sectors and hospitality sectors. We saw the St. Regis Aspen project kicking off and being a very, very good example, also generating good marketing exposure last year.
Did you see the amazing profile they did on that on some channel?
Yeah.
It was so good. Check it out. Security Token Academy, profile of that. Please continue.
So, look, I think any company that's looking to extract value or to fundraise, and they're approached with an opportunity to do that, they're going to be interested. So I think it's the tech companies that are actually the ones that are moving towards tokens the fastest.
Yeah. So what about liquidity? So that seems to be kind of the whole point of a lot of this, and yet it's elusive for a variety of reasons. What do you think is the key to finally reaching a point where liquidity is achievable?
Yeah, I mean, we're a long way from having a super liquid market. There's a lot of barriers right at the moment. I think regulatory clarity,
right,
the need for regulated entities and perhaps organizations such as ourselves to really be able to distribute these products at scale to institutional investors internationally, and also the infrastructure that we're using today to actually run security tokens is not really fit for purpose. In our opinion, financial regulators, they don't like decentralized networks for important processes to do with KYC and AML. They're hesitant about the use of decentralized networks for these kind of things. That's not. I think in the long run, we will see decentralized networks being used for these activities, but it's going to take time for the regulators, in my opinion, to feel more comfortable with that. And then finally, we need quality products. We need quality products which actually have investment upside, and people can say, yeah, I'm going to invest in that because there's going to be a yield here for me. So I think that's what we need to focus on to get there. And there are many, many great companies that are really trying to push this process forwards. T0 are in my opinion, an integral company today because they are attracting so much attention to the topic of secondary market trading, because it's all very well and good me talking about selling tokens to the primary market, but everyone wants to be able to then sell at some point, right? And know that there's a liquid market there to do that. So, tracking the progress of companies like T0 is going to be key again to the liquidity coming to the market. Yeah,
no doubt. So, in short, what's your plan, your vision, your roadmap for the near future at Fincross?
Sure. So I think, look, we're at this point where we have to onboard our first clients this quarter. We think that the best way to do that is to focus on penetrating the security token market and really being, joining kind of the global players in this activity and in this market. We think there's a huge opportunity for gathering market share in this market early on. We've got some sophisticated ideas on products that we're getting some good feedback on. We have a pipeline of corporations looking to tokenize assets. So that's really, those are our goals for this year, is to kind of bring to market some flagship products for the security token market, and also to provide this space, especially for institutional investors in particular, because they've got the most demands, to provide a solution that takes care of all of their needs, from custody to advisory, to access to products, access to the best products. That's ultimately what we want to do in order to justify our position as an investment bank that's focused on these digital assets.
Well, thank you for coming all the way from London to share with this group all about Fincross, what you're up to, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Give it up for Henry.